Hello, I'm Arnold. I'm an intern at SetFX, and I'm a teaching fellow in New York Film Academy, Los Angeles. Today, I'm gonna talk about one project I did during my internship. I will explain how and why I did my setup. Also, as an artist, I will share with you how I start my project under a time-limit production schedule. This project involves lots of parts, including modeling, effect, texture, lighting, layout, previs, rendering, and composition. For the rendering part, I used Karma rendered my final shot. The goal of this presentation is to let you know how everything works together. Before I start my project, I always want to see some reference first. There are a couple of good websites for artists to look for reference, such as Pinterest, ArtStation, Houdini Group on Facebook. Here, as you can see, I'm using Pinterest. I have different boards for different topics. For example, this one is for Sci-Fi Lab. These pictures will help me when I'm doing modeling, texture, lighting, layout later. For this board, it's for Sci-Fi Container. And this board is for an alien creature that I'm gonna model for my project. Next step, I love to make a schedule. It not only helps me keep everything on track, but also reminds me of my progress. And here is my schedule. You can see I have different colors for different status. And also I have a delivery date. For example, for status, I have not started, approved, error, other, in progress, submitted, on hold, cancelled. And for priority, I have low, medium, high, and urgent. So for example, the effect part, I have 4 different effects. And for this one, soft body simulation, the status is submitted and it's high for priority. And here's my delivery date. Now let's dive into Houdini. I'm gonna talk about modeling first. We all know Houdini is good at making procedural things. However, as an artist, you don't have to make everything procedural. Whether making it procedural is depend on your requirements. For example, here I have a Lantern HDA. I need to have multiple similar models for a project, and it makes sense for me to make it procedural. The good thing is it is really easy for me to get different shape in the later work. The bad part is it took me 2 hours to make the setup. If I only need one letter model, I could easily build this model under 10 minutes, and I will have more time to work on others' work. So, today I will show you some non-procedural way to model an asset. Here's an asset I modeled. This is one decoration on the side wall. Let's take a look how I modeled this one. First, we need a grid. And we don't need rows and columns, so I'm gonna set 2 by 2. And maybe like this. I'm gonna drop down a transform node and then rotate like this. Next step, I could run a polybevel node, but I only want to run on these 2 points, and then I can increase the distance. If you want to have a round corner, you can increase the division, but in this case, I want to have straight line. Now I'm gonna go to side view and run a polysplit node. This node I can start to draw lines. For example, something like this. Now I have 2 primitives, 0 and 1. I can run a split node to split to 2 different groups. So if you see on the left input, it's group 1. On a different output, it's group 2. Now let's get some thickness. For the back part, I want to have a watertight geometry, so I'm gonna enable output back. And I want to do the same for the other side. And if I merge these two together, I get my model. I'm gonna make this one thicker. Now let's put down some holes in here on both sides. I'm gonna use a box node. Also, before that, I want to run a transform node and put to the center box. Maybe like this. Okay, now I can run a boolean node to get a hole in here. Nice. Now I want to do the same for the other side. I don't have to make another box and then do a boolean node. I can simply have two boxes on both sides. I can use a mirror node. By default, it looks like this, and the direction should be in the z-axis, so 0, 0, 1. And here's our result. I can do a merge. Cool. And the position is wrong, so I can right-click on the transform node and use make a reference copy. For this one, I'm gonna say invert transformation. In here. Also, I want to change the z-axis. Nice. And here's our model. Let's do some UV. I can simply use a UV unwrap node. In here, and then do a UV quick shade. Cool. I can do the same for the other side. And here's our final result. As you can see, it's not hard to model this kind of geometry in Houdini. Here, let's do something else. What about an organic shape? This is a model, an alien creature that I modeled. Let's take a look how I modeled the tail part. So I have a line for the beginning, and I want to have more points. And also I want to have the curve view attribute, so I can have the 0 to 1 value. So I'm going to use a resample node to get more points. Maybe this is too much, or I can use this one. Say maybe 12, something like this. 13 points. And also I want to enable curve view attribute. So if I want to visualize this curve view attribute, I can use a color node, and then use curve view for the attribute. And now you can see 0 to 1. Next time I can run a sphere and then copy to those points. And make it smaller. Also, I want to use polygon to get some frequency. we have this 0 to 1 range. We can use this attribute to control the scale of my sphere from a range bottom to top. So what we want is the bottom is smaller and then top is larger. Let's write some codes in here. Let's say at p scale equal channel ramp. And the name of the ramp, I just want to call it ramp. And the attribute to drive this ramp is curve u. Cool. Now I can use this ramp to control the overall scale. And for each sphere, I want to have a random scale, so I can multiply a random value. And then I can add a seed in here. Like that. Maybe this is what I want. Cool. Now I can run a mountain node to get an organic shape. Let's make it bigger. Okay, I think this is good. So after this, I can use a VDB from Polygon node to convert to VDB. And then lower this value to get more resolution. Maybe 0.01. And then I can convert back to geometry. And polygon. As you can see, this is our tail. This is how I modeled my tail. The effect part is 3 different effects combined. One soft body simulation, one sticky line effect, and one flip simulation. I imagine this alien creature is soft, so I decided to sweat them to make this effect. I will use this squab as a test geometry. In this case, let's focus on soft body and sticky line first. Now let's take a look how I made it. Let's make a geometry folder first and then go inside with the squab geometry. I want to use this one as our test geometry. Let's move up a little bit. Maybe like this. And also I want to reduce the polygon number. I'm going to use remesh node to do this. Maybe like that. Next step, we want to convert our geometry into a Vellum object. And we can use Vellum constraint to do this. And if you go to constraint tab, you can see we have different tabs. In this case, I want to use class. And we have 3 outputs in our Vellum constraint node. The first one is the geometry itself. The second one is the constraint. You can see we have multiple lines in here. The third one is the collision geometry. And we don't see anything in here. That is because we don't have any collision geometry. Let's name it. For this one, I'm going to call it outgeo. And this one, I'm going to call it outcst for constraint. Next step, let's put our dot network in here. I'm going to call it Vellum sim. We need a Vellum object, a Vellum solver. And we need to specify our initial geometry and our initial constraint. And this is going to be our outgeo and then outcst. And here's our object. If I put down a gravity down here and a ground node as the collision geometry and play it, it's simply gonna fall down. It looks like class. Okay, next step. We don't want to see like a pure class behavior. We want to see more like a soft body behavior, which means we need to have some constraint inside of our geometry. In order to do that, I can run another volume constraint on the outside. And this time, I want to use structs. So if I bypass this one, you can see this is structs constraint. And you can see we have some lines inside the geometry. Cool. And on the structs constraint, we can change our stiffness if we want. Let's go back inside. Let's play it. Cool. But maybe it's more like a rigid body behavior on the body part. So I want to reduce the stiffness. So maybe I'm gonna say 1000. Let's take a look. Maybe 10. Or let's say 100. So you can control the stiffness to get different behavior. Nice. Next step. Instead of going down, I want to go into a different axis. Maybe going to x-axis or z-axis. How do we do this? On the Vellum solver, it has three inputs. First one is our object. The second one is the particle force, which means we can use any pop-related node to control our class simulation. I'm going to use pop force to do this. And we'll connect to the second input. And for example, I want to move on the z-axis. 005 should go to the z-axis. Also, I want to just delete the gravity. It's going to the z-axis. Okay, now let's get a different collision geometry. Let's make a grid. Maybe rotate. And move up a little bit. Move closer. Okay. Let's give it a name. Let's call it art. Collision geometry. Okay. Let's go back inside dot network. I'm going to use static object to get our collision geometry. And it's art collision geometry. Let's merge these two together. And play it. And as you can see, the collision geometry is working fine. Okay, next step. We want to have some sort of thickness feature on our geometry. Because I imagine the alien creature is gonna be a gluey type of geometry or creature. We can run a volume constraint inside the dot network. The reason I'm making the volume constraint inside is because I want to run this constraint each frame, so it's not just one frame thing. It's a dynamic constraint. I want to run a volume constraint in here. pause over. And this time, I want to use attach to geometry. And this is really important. We want to use each frame. Let's play it. Okay. Is it working? Probably not. Okay, so we need to specify our target geometry. It's gonna be the wall. Let's play it. It looks like this geometry is not moving in here. Let's take a look why. Let's go to one object and then attach to geometry. And here's our constraint guide. And as you can see, guide, the constraint is too much. That's why our object is not moving at all. On the one constraint, I have this max distance to control the distance of our constraint. Let's say 0.2 and play it. Cool. Now you can see our geometry stick on the wall. Nice. And we can use this stiffness to control the strength of this constraint. Let's lower it, maybe 1000. Maybe 100. Also, let's introduce our gravity back, but I only want to use -3. Maybe too much. Okay, this is good. And we have this breaking threshold in here in our one constraint. Let's turn to turn on. So this node, this value, is gonna control under what circumstance our constraint is gonna break. Let's take a look. As you can see, our constraint start to break because it's above this threshold value. If I increase this number, it's going to be harder for constraint to break. Cool. This is the basic setup. Now let's take a look at my setup to get the sticky line. Here's my simulation. This one bouncing back and forth. On the while and post-process node, I have this visualize button in here, and then constraint attached to geometry. If I display it, you can see I have my lines in here. And as you can see, the result is quite good. I can use distance as my sticky line. I don't have to do extra work. But the problem is, how do we get our sticky line from this node back to the sub level? If I go inside the post process and go here, you can see we have this guide in here attached to geometry. Now we can just object merge this one back to the sub level. So I'm going to run an object merge node and use while and post process in here and guide. As you can see, we get our line in here. It's looking really good. The second problem is we have this sphere in here. We only need a line, we don't need sphere. We can simply use edit node. On the geometry tab, we use sphere. And pattern is everything. Now we get our lines in here. This is how I get my sticky line. In here, as you can see, this is my final result. I have one group for the main branch and another group for the second branch. Merge them together. I want to run a scatter node to get some points. I'm using the VDB workflow to get the final shape. This is my final shape. So what you need to do is, first step, using the VDB from particle nodes to convert from particles to VDB, and then run VDB reshape to make it more smooth. Here what I did is I run a VDB analysis node to get a curvature attribute, and then use attribute from volume to get my curvature attribute back to the geometry. Before, I don't have the curvature attribute. After, I do have the curvature value. And if I want to visualize this one, you can see this is the result. So why do I need this map? And for this is going to be for shading later. For example, the white part is going to be semi-translucent, and the black part is going to be pure translucent. And for this part, what I did is point warp. I run a noise going on this geometry. So let me enable this time shift. You can see the result. So here, I just stay on frame 24, so there's no animation. In here, I'm using a curve U attribute to draw where I want to have this noise behavior. But you can start to see the geometry is not a static line, it's actually moving. I feel this is more organic. And this is my final result. Because of the time, I don't have time to walk through my process. I will show you some comparison I did for my flip simulation. This is me comparing different fluid sources. And here is compared viscosity. This is putting everything together. After that, I did a couple of wedges in top network to compare different values like drag, particle separation. Once I have everything ready, I will use Karma to render it. To use Karma, we have to use Solaris network. Solaris is good working with USD, but for Freelancer or Small Studio, you don't need to convert to USD. You can simply import your asset into Solaris and use Karma to render it. Let's take a look how we can render our geometry inside Solaris. I have a file node in here just to bring in my geometry. And it has UV. And in order to render this in Solaris, you need to go to Stage Network. And I want to change my layout from Build to Solaris. I'm gonna go to Stage. I can use a self-import node to bring in my geometry. And under the scene graphic path, you can see the name is self-import1. And here's our geometry, our mesh. Basically, it's reading the name of the node self-import1. If you want to change the name, you can change the name in here. For example, base, and the name changes to base. And what you usually want to do is load as reference. This is a more memory efficient way to bring in your asset to Solaris. I can turn this one off and then change the name in here. Next step is we want to apply material. I'm going to use a material library node to do it. And I can double click to go inside. In here, I can make a principal shader. On the outside, what we need to do is auto-fill materials in order to get the correct path in here. And also, the geometry path should be our base geometry. Just click and drag. Okay, I have different texture maps. So I'm gonna go to textures, base color, And this is going to be the diffuse map. Actually, the color is wrong. That is because our base color is using 0.2. It means we are using 20% of the value from the diffuse map. And I want to use 100% of the value. So I'm going to change my color to white. I'm going to do the same for roughness and the metallic. Because I have a roughness map and also a metallic map, I can go back to texture, go to roughness, and use my roughness map, and also the metallic map. Okay. Now let's take a look at the render. You can just click this button and use camera beta. And currently it's still under beta, but it's still working fine. And here's our render. Let's add some light. I'm going to use a dome light. Merge it in. Let's put down a texture on our light. I'm going to use the scratch texture. Okay. Maybe this is too much. I'm going to lower the intensity to 50%. Nice. I'm going to stop the render. Next step is we want to have a camera in here. We can make a camera node. Like this. And this is my camera view. I can go back to perspective. And the final step is drop down a camera node. On this camera node, we can specify where we want to export our picture. And also set our render quality by default is 128. This is a good number to get a final result. Here you can set your camera resolution. Let's talk about AOVs. For example, if you want to have actual map for composition, you can go to RenderWorks AOVs and click the LPE button. For example, we want to have an indirect diffuse map. Let's take a look. In order to see the map in the viewport, you need to click this button. Here's the indirect diffuse, and you can take a look, and it's looking good. I'm going to go back here. I'm going to stop the render. For example, we want to have extra custom map like UV. You can click this button in here, and for source name, because it's UV, so I'm going to use ST, and this is going to be our custom name. I'm going to call it my UV. And for my colors reflow channel, I'm going to enable multi-sampled. Let's take a look. Here's my UV channel. As you can see, it's working good. We can use this map in our composition. This is a basic setup for render in Solaris without convert your asset to USD.
And that's everything. Thank you for watching and have a good day.